We are here today with Danielle Citrolo. Danielle is the Vice President of Scientific Affairs at Kyowa, and I was lucky enough to work with Danielle for about 5 years when I worked at Kyowa. So it's really exciting to get to talk to Danielle today and interview Danielle. Today we are talking about the microbiome and Kyowa's newer ingredient, Immuse. But before we jump into any of that, Danielle, just introduce us to yourself and your career and your role at Kyowa.
Of course. I'm very happy to be here and happy to have you interview me as well. So I've been with Kyowa now almost 11 years, and my background is pharmacy. I have a PharmD, and I did work in pharmacy for, maybe 6-7 years for a little while. I was a clinical pharmacist in 2 different hospitals until Kyowa stole me. And then I came into the industry, and I've been working, my role is basically, designing some of the clinical studies that support the science behind our ingredients to substantiate claims. I support, all the science, training the team, or introducing our ingredients to our customers, and reviewing all the regulatory and implementing any regulatory, compliance, all that kind of fun stuff.
Great. Yeah, great. Yeah, I want to jump right into I'll call it the biotics market, because there's so many different biotics now. And I know you have really great extensive science background. Can you just talk to us a little bit about the different biotics on the market, the pre, the post, the pro, just a quick overview of, kind of what you know for the
Yeah,
viewers.
definitely. This is my take on it, of course. So, I call the prebiotics kind of like the food for the probiotics. Basically prebiotics help those microbes thrive and really, feed them almost, right? And then the probiotics are those live microbes that make up what we call the microbiome. It's like a little community. The microbiome is like a community of microbes in our gut. And then, of course, now there's this newer category called postbiotics. And what this category and what we're learning is that some of the microbes actually don't have to be alive in order to convey a benefit in the host. And it can be even components of the microbe, and they actually confer a benefit on the host. And so that is a new category that we're just starting to see. And in terms of consumers, of course, consumers are pretty well versed, I think, are becoming more and more versed, especially around probiotics, right? I don't think they are really understanding all the differences between the pre, the pro, and the post. I think more is to come there, and there's quite a bit of consumer education that can be done there. But in terms of immune health, a lot of the market has stalled, but what's interesting is that the probiotic market in immune health, so people are actually buying for immune health, they're buying more probiotics. So that's the area that's growing within the immune health space, which is really interesting. And then the consumers of probiotics are generally a younger demographic. What we're seeing, the 18 to like the mid-30 range, are the ones that are buying more of the probiotics. And when I say probiotics, it's generally a category now, because what we're seeing is more and more products on the market are really a combination, right? They're really more of like a symbiotic, where you're seeing the pre, you're seeing the pro, and now they're starting to add the post to some of these combination products, which is really interesting.
And it's kind of so amazing that each one of these, like the pre, the post, they're all like a little bit different of a mechanism of action and how they work in the body. So they're all offering, they're offering like the umbrella of the immune health category and maybe the umbrella of the cognitive health category. They're offering just different kind of benefits within those categories, which is what I find pretty fascinating about like the different biotics. And but I'd love to like talk a little bit more about like the microbiome and how the biotics fit into the microbiome. Kyowa has so much success in the cognitive health arena, the immune health category. So can you expanded on, a little bit about the immune health category. Can you talk to us a little bit about the connection of the microbiome and brain health for us?
Absolutely. So your point before is that they all have their own role, and that's what the benefit of a healthy microbiome is all these diverse microbes that all have their own benefit, which is interesting. And so the gut brain axis, or we're learning more and more about, it's definitely a newer area, and I'm by sure not an expert, but to simplify it and explain basically what's happening is that these microbes, what we're learning is that these microbes a lot of them can produce both positive and negative substances for brain health, right? So what we're learning is that there's microbes that are actually associated with producing substances that can impact mood and depression. We're learning that, diseases like Parkinson's, we're finding substances that everybody with Parkinson's have that can be actually, found to be a substance that's produced by the microbiome or the gut, right? Or basically the microbes in the gut. So these microbes are producing, and then the other ones are producing positive things like oxytocin, which is our love hormone, right? Or, so they're actually, these microbes, depending on what they are, they're producing hormones that are impacting our brain health. So that's one way that the gut, but the other way is really about our gut health, right? So a healthy microbiome supports gut permeability, right? So gut permeability is really important to our overall health. When we have a good microbiome that's well fed with good prebiotics, they're not really hurting the gut permeability, or they're not drawing from the gut wall. But when we have an unhealthy microbiome, it can lead to increase in gut permeability, which allows substances to normally wouldn't cross the gut into our bloodstream, and it creates a lot of inflammation, and that can really impact brain health as well. So that's kind of like two areas. And I'm sure there's other mechanisms too that I'm not even talking about, but those are the kind of bigger picture. And then immune health is kind of its own separate thing. So these microbes are so cool. So they're doing other things as well with our immune health. And actually in terms of immune cells, the most amount of immune cells actually reside in our intestines. And they have this Peyer's patch, which lives on the other side of the gut wall. And these microbes are basically interacting with our immune cells to help develop and influence their function. And that's through either the microbe themselves interact specifically with the cells, or substances produced by these microbes are impacting the development and the function of our immune cells. It's all happening right in our intestines.
It's kind of amazing when you think about it. And I know there's so many factors that, external factors, right, that also go into like gut health, like the foods we eat, right? The environment that we live in, maybe the prescription drugs that we're taking, right? So all of that also I know goes into whether the gut is healthy or maybe unhealthy. And that's where I kind of want to also switch gears a little bit and talk about sports nutrition, because, there is some, and I think the research is coming and it's starting to come on, the decreased immunity with like intense exercise. So I think we know as a community that exercise is important. Aerobic exercise and, in a way that we do it every day is probably good for the gut, right? But then when we switch to that kind of like that intense exercise, it kind of could, not permanently, but like right away decrease the immune system. So how does the intense exercise, how is that affecting, our immune system, the microbiome, for example? What's going on there?
Well, there's a theory in general, and I think that it can be controversial at some point, but the idea is it's an open window theory where we have intense exercise, and we're talking like marathon. We're talking very intense, not your typical, even just hit and stuff. That's not horrible, right? We're talking like really strenuous exercise. And people who run marathons or really, conduct strenuous exercise, there's this window up to like 72 hours where the immune system is, impacted. And I think it's mostly like our immune cells kind of are reduced and retreat kind of in a way. And it's like this open window where you see like a reduced immunity and there's like more, vulnerability to infection. But I really think it's the flip, right? So yes, we have this, but should we be super stressed about that overall? I don't believe so. I believe that the benefit, even of strenuous, really outweighs that risk of that like potential open window, right? And what we do know is actually the opposite. It's basically that people, elite athletes and people who undergo strenuous exercise, their microbiome is actually in a better position than the rest of us. They have more microbe diversity, and they have more microbes that create or produce these short chain fatty acids, which have a lot of benefit in the gut health arena in terms of serving the cells in the gut and our body. So what we study,
sorry,
yeah,
exactly.
It's energy. Exactly. So as much as we have that reduced immunity, the microbiome in these individuals is actually better than the average person. And on the flip, just so you know, those sedentary lifestyle, they have less diversity and they have more microbes that have a more negative impact on our health. It's just the beginning. We know a lot about both ends of the spectrum, but I think we don't know a lot about the continuum, and really this research is in its infancy.
And I think it's just such a great area for some continued research for sports nutrition, microbiome, immune health, and hopefully we see more of it coming. Kyowa has a product, Immuse LC Plasma. The ingredient has been in almost 30 clinical studies now, backing its benefit for immune health. 30 clinical studies is amazing for an ingredient. So kudos for Kyowa for doing its part in our industry for sure. So tell us a little bit about the ingredient. Tell us what makes it different and unique in that way.
Yeah. So Immuse is a heat-treated strain called Lactococcus lactis strain plasma. So it is actually the definition of what a postbiotic is. So it's a postbiotic. So the cells are originally alive and it's heat-treated or pasteurized. And the amazing thing about it is that even if it's not viable, it's not a live cell, it can still have a big impact on our immune health. And we have a lot of research, as you said. But the way it's working is what makes it unique and different in the marketplace. It's actually working to impact the PDC cell, which is this special cell in the immune system that has a unique mechanism where it itself really shows the immune cells it's an antigen presenter, so it shows the immune cells invaders. It also recruits and signals to other cells that they need to start activating. And the cells that it signals is what makes it more comprehensive and unique. It's able to actually activate or signal to natural killer cells, T cells, and B cells. And when we have all those cells, what's interesting is we're covering the innate immune system and the adaptive. And the adaptive is the one that's the memory, right? It's like, oh, we have an infection, but next time we get that infection, our body remembers it and we can kind of respond quicker, right? So it's really interesting in that this special cell, by activating it, is really like the pinnacle or the leader in activating a great immune response. And it's because it can really touch all those different immune cells.
I remember when we were working together and Kieran came and, was like, we're going to launch this great product. There's some great studies. And, we looked at the science and the claims and the marketing, and we're like, how do we market this amazing mechanism of action behind the Immuse, and how comprehensive this mechanism is, because it's so unique and how it's hitting activating all those different cells. So I think it's so awesome that you guys have put that product onto the market and it's available for consumers for sure.
Yeah, and just an update on Japan, Japan has been marketing it since 2012, and that is the reason why we came to market here in the U.S. with so many studies, right? It's not a new ingredient in Japan. Kieran's been marketing it for a long time. There's 22 products on the market in Japan, which is amazing and really cool. And what's even cooler, yet to be launched, is a product with Coca-Cola and Kellogg. So really big companies are really adopting this ingredient, seeing the benefit and all the research. And like I said, there's 15 human clinical studies that have been done, just looking at the benefit in immune health, which is just, it's amazing.
And then I know you guys have a study on sports nutrition. So talk to us about the benefits for Immuse for sports nutrition, if you can kind of just quickly highlight that study for us.
Yeah, sure. So we did a study in university sports club students, and we didn't change the regimen. Their actual workout regimen was according to whatever the sports club their daily routine was. But what we did was we just gave half the subjects Immuse and the other half placebo. And what we found was the subjects who took Immuse reported a better physical condition overall. And it was statistically significant from placebo. They also reported less fatigue overall in doing their workout and post-workout. So, those were two of the major findings. But what we also looked at was upper respiratory infections. And there was a reduction in runny nose and sneezing. So is Immuse an ingredient that's impacting like performance per se? No, we're not gonna see time to exhaustion changes and things like that, directly. But what we are seeing is that these types of athletes or people who work out on the regular, they work out whether they're sick or they're not sick, right? But if they're not sick or they're feeling healthier, they overall have a better workout, and they're reporting that through that study. And I think that's the general outcome.
Yeah, and I think there's something, less respiratory issues, less fatigue, right? Like that's better gym days for these athletes and for people that are going to the gym. So, I'm always all about better gym days when I try to wake up in the morning and actually go to the gym. But for sure, I think this is so important for even, like on the athletic level who have to be in the gym every day, right? So,
right. Yep.
For sure. I just want to end on, I think Kyowa has really kind of made a statement launching one of the very first probiotics with a unique mechanism of action here in the U.S. So what do you think is next for postbiotics? I would love to get your opinion, or, what do you think is next, whether it's within your company or just in general?
Yeah, I think we're seeing this category really start to come alive. I felt like we were one of the first ones to launch a postbiotic. It felt like a new category. We didn't even have the right name for it at first. We're figuring it out. There's been a scientific community really starting to establish more literature around it, and that's how we kind of established that postbiotic category. And that wasn't the original plan, right? We didn't really know how to define this ingredient and what it was. So that was really exciting. And it was definitely one of the first postbiotics with this unique mechanism. But in terms of the market for postbiotics, definitely this one, I'm not an expert, but I definitely think we're in our infancy with this one as well. What we're seeing is we are understanding more and more of what microbes produce what to impact health. And I think that when you take probiotics, you always kind of question, because we don't really have great testing methods for the stability and the shelf life. So even when I take them, it's kind of like, all right, how many am I really getting that are still alive that are going to have an impact, right? And it doesn't mean you don't take them, right? They still have so many benefits, but we really don't know shelf life sometimes and how alive they are. So if we can kind of grasp a lot of the benefits from these microbes and understand what the benefits are, and we can actually provide it in a non-viable form that we know is stable and efficacious, I think that's a huge benefit. Of course, I think there's still going to be benefits to taking live, because they can really contribute to the microbiome and the health of the microbiome. So there's going to be both sides of it that we have to figure out. But I think as we learn more about each microbe and their benefit, we may be able to find out, it could be a postbiotic and still have the benefit. And then we have the stability benefit and the efficacy and the safety that goes along with a postbiotic. Not that probiotics don't, right? But,
Sure.
there is a benefit to be able to take it and know that it's, going to be effective.
I think we're learning about the research. I think there's more research to come. I think, if I look at the market, there's so much more on personalized nutrition when it comes to the microbiome as well, because everybody's microbiome is different and unique. So I'm excited for the research, but thank you, Danielle, so much. I always learn so much from you, so I appreciate all the knowledge that you have given us today. We are also thanking Kyowa for sponsoring the microbiome piece in our quarterly intensive. And we really look forward to seeing, all the new products that are launching with Immuse in the future.
Thank you, Elyse. It was great to see you.
Yeah, you too.